Christmas. BBC One's motif this year is sparkly. That's it.
Christmas 2012 on BBC One. It's showtime, so let's switch on the lights in Albert Square and hope no one blows a fuse.
Alright, there's more than one variety of sparkly thing, but the one thing that stops it from being disappointingly bland is the Charlestoning jazzy theme tune, which is quite an unusual choice for Christmas. It is assumed, or perhaps just hoped, that the curtain will rise on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day to reveal something or other, possibly connected to the bizarre storyline that's been going on in the trailers with Rob Brydon and Sarah Alexander as the mystical conductors of BBC One's Christmas television. Over on BBC Two, you cheap bastards! Is it really so expensive to make a new one every year? Really? I mean, it's terrific, but it was last year. Not making a new one makes Christmas feel less special somehow. It certainly makes BBC Two feel less special. Oh well, at least the regions are at it again, with BBC One Northern Ireland outdoing its national counterpart with this charming little tableau.
Mordred's forced to make a choice, unaware of the consequences on Camelot, Merlin at 8:15. And for Saturday night now on BBC One Northern Ireland, a super sparkly semi-final of Strictly.
As for the Radio Times, this year the star is The Snowman, in honour of the Briggsless sequel to the original film, which from all early indications is more or less the same thing, but with a dog and without the haunting soundtrack. And hopefully without the original's downer ending. I mean, murdering the snowman the first time was bad enough, but this time around they'd also had to murder a blameless hound, who in the narrative is actually created in tribute to the little boy's actual dead dog. Under those circumstances, to replicate the original's ending would be an act of cruelty they wouldn't allow into a Dickensian workhouse. A case actually could be made that ITV has the best Christmas ident this year.
Have today's players got a wealth of knowledge to rival the experts? The chase is on at 5 o'clock. But first on ITV1, it's all about the baking.
Yeah, it's tacky as you like, but Christmas idents often have to be. The rush to be tasteful is what's made the BBC's idents, for much of the past couple of decades, so bland. And not just at Christmas. ITV's ident is heedless enough to be garish. It's vaguely like slumping on the sofa with far too many qualities.
Merry Christmas from ITV.
It's also vaguely reminiscent of BBC One's look from 1989, with the little toys trundling around and everything. The one thing that I would have preferred was if they'd actually made the model instead of computer generating it. There's a special extra touch that's impossible to articulate and can't be replicated any other way when you know you're looking at a real thing with real existence and real weight in the real world, as opposed to a cartoon, which is what we're looking at here. But this is actually cheaper to make, and it is a recession. And it is ITV, we're lucky they had this much imagination at all. This is the last, not just the last Christmas, but I believe the last ident of any kind for this particular ITV logo. They announced a long overdue rebrand earlier in the year, which I think is due to go live right after Christmas. In case you hadn't seen it already, here's the new logo. Yeah. Sort of... yeah. Apart from anything else, I can see this backfiring spectacularly if there's another bombing, or if the Queen dies, because what they've done here is they've created a frivolous logo for an entertainment channel, which is occasionally going to have to introduce the news. I was expecting something even blander, to be fair. I Kind of like its use of colour, sort of vaguely reminiscent of ATV in that respect. But really, it's not great. Admittedly, we haven't seen it moving yet, although with the whole colour overlapping thing, you can pretty much guess what it'll look like when it is moving. Incidentally, one of the main colours appears to be brown. Good choice. And I actually quite like the one sort of in-use version of the logo we've seen. But this doesn't strike me as the logo of a national broadcaster that's trying to compete with the BBC. It doesn't even strike me as the kind of logo for a national broadcaster who knows what the letter I looks like, to be honest. It looks like maybe one of the smaller regions in the early 90s. And back then the national logo was this, infinitely more distinguished. Though the fragmented nature of the network makes it hard to collate prior to the 21st century, pay attention at the back, ITV have often done well by Christmas, or rather their regions have often done well by Christmas. And not just for the idents. Check out this programme slide. Far more effort than they bother going to now, and frankly far more effort than they needed to at the time, considering it's the black hole. Even their news providers got into the spirit of the season, although the cheery cartoon Santa sat uneasily with their forbidding theme tune.
Now on Yorkshire Television we prepare to spend Christmas night at the movies with the first of 3 films, The Liquidator, starring Rod Taylor.
Right up till the word liquidator, that sounded lovely. Incidentally, Rod Taylor's character is a James Bond rip-off super spy called Boise Oak. But you know, Paul Lally could have introduced Freddy Got Fingered and made it sound like It's a Wonderful Life. Thames love their Christmases too. One year they seemed to sort of trap Philip Elsmore in a cocoon made of tinsel. Yeah, it's disappointing that they never did anything to the ident itself, but back in the days of in-vision continuity, it didn't matter quite so much. Of course, after Invis bit the dust, it didn't quite seem to matter so much either, at least to the television companies themselves. Here's Forgotten Men of ITV Meridian on Christmas Day.
Merry Christmas, you're watching Meridian.
Miserable bastards. And don't forget the faintly totalitarian ITV generic look from 1999. But at least there was always Central, the region who presentation-wise I don't think ever had the stops in the first place. I don't know if they even owned stops. They probably found the stops one day and just chucked them in the bin. The point is, they were always good value. This was in the early days of the cake, specifically 1987, hence mostly being in two-dimensional animation. But as soon as CGI technology made it to Nottingham, they were laughing. The ident itself also displays Central's peculiar habit of playing themselves down.
Just a reminder, there's another film not to be missed when Lee Marvin stars in Paint Your Wagon. That's tomorrow afternoon at 2.
Not to mention talking about a completely different programme to the one you're introducing. Central got away with it though because they created such a big personality and sense of identity that they didn't need to restate it over and over again, or indeed at all. The ident doesn't even mention the company's name, although the card, I'm assuming, would have read Central on other days. And the cake is nowhere to be seen, although the wreath and the door give a good impression of it. It's mildly disconcerting, but it's not a patch on what I'm about to leave you with. From my own region, somewhere in the 70s, when it was Westward Television, before I was born, so I absolved myself of all responsibility for this thing. Here in full is a Christmas Day startup that veers from a pleasant if faintly eerie mechanised Christmas ident to the most nightmarish nativity scene you'll ever see this side of David Lynch's King of Kings, which I just realised is a really good idea and should definitely happen at some point. Somebody get onto that. Anyway, enjoy. Merry Christmas.
And that's all the early news on ITN. We hope that you're having a pleasant day and that you will join us again for the late news tonight at 11 o'clock.
I'll forget it.